So when we look at the clouds and the biblical reference of the first covenant after the flood, when we look at Noah and the significance of the bow and the cloud, the rainbow, and that covenant, and not destroying the earth. So when we look at the children of Israel being led by the cloud, and the New Testament reference in First Corinthians, where it talks about that the cloud and the rock, and that this was the Savior, the hand of the Most High, that caused these events to happen to provide guidance. So the Most High, throughout the religious text of the Bible, has used the cloud in many different ways. So we'll look at some of the ways. So you look at Genesis 9:14, all the way through Exodus, as I mentioned about the cloud leading the children of Israel through the wilderness in their time of their exodus, as well as the sign of the covenant of the rainbow and the significance of Anan. When you look at the Anunnaki and the direction to guide, and Anatole, and the east. All right, so you have to understand these tropics and how they play a role in, especially the time of the winter. When you look at the Nimbus Aureus and the cloud and the sky and the rain and thunder, we have to understand Cain and Abel more specifically in thunder, and a lot of the thunder, water, fertility deities when we look at the Americas. Because dealing with these crossings, especially during the time of the north of the southern crossing, when the sun was in this southern tropical region in the south in the Tropic of Capricorn, ending in the Sagittarius, it was beneficial for this Polynesian triangle. So we see during this time now the north and how the rains, the winds, when we look at the atmosphere deities of Shu, we have to understand these clouds and the holders of the sky, the Bakabs, the four directions, the four sons of Horus. These things were essential to understanding the tropics, especially during the time of the winter. As I mentioned, the sun is in this portion. So in the northern regions, they experience the most higher altitudes of cooler moisture, which causes the rain and the snow in these regions in the north. So we see in Alaska and in these regions during the time of the north, when the tropics are heating the ground levels of the Earth's surface, this causes the vapor to rise. Now, the higher the altitude of this vapor rising, all right, it cools in the process of this rising. Now, this cooling process creates water droplets. Now, when we look at chemtrails and the significance of the scriptures, it talks about the heavens becoming dust. We got to understand the formation of clouds is these water droplets from this cooling and this rising in these high altitudes forms this dense condensation that forms these clouds. It's a gathering of multiple accumulations of these droplets and dust particles, smoke, salt, and particles that form these clouds. As I mentioned, the higher the altitude, as you see the cooling sensation. This is why the Nimbus Aureus, and the cumulus clouds, the puffier clouds, are in lower altitude. So they have, when we look at the Sirius clouds and their regions and their heights and altitudes, you'll see that these are the feather-like type clouds. And as you get lower in altitude, you'll notice the fluffiness in the different types of clouds. Now, the Nimbus Aureus, when you look at Anan and Anunnaki, the chariots of the Most High, and the clouds are so significant in looking at this mythos between the solar and lunar, but also in the connection with the chariots of the Most High and the movements, the guidance, and the leadership. So we see this crystallization that takes place, these water molecules in these clouds is what forms these rains here in the north, in these regions, while the sun is in this southern tropic. Due to this buildup of moisture, we'll see in the high altitudes as well as the low altitudes, the subtropic region, these dark rain clouds, fertility. This is what helped the furnishing of the corn and the maize in these times here in the Americas, which made it a land of plenty.